Thank you, guys. So I'm really excited to be here on the very last day when everybody's a little tired and hungover and worn out. So to make things exciting, I thought I could use my speaker notes, but it turns out I can't. So this is going to be interesting for all of us to see whether or not if I remember what I need to say. But thanks for having me. I thought about what I'd like to say to this room when I was asked to speak. And maybe it's that time of year when people start to put together the sort of year in review and the best of lists. My mind was going towards lists. And I thought, what are the things that we've learned over the last year? I've been lucky enough to work at Turner for the last 8 years. You might be familiar with our brands, everything from the NBA and March Madness to TBS and TNT, CNN, of course, Bleacher Report. And we are a premium content video-led company. And up until this past year, programmatic was not a word that was allowed to leave our lips in the halls, and certainly not outside of the organization. And so just about this time last year, our company said, okay, let's see what this is. Let's try, the famous phrase of dip our toe in the water. And so a year has passed. So I wanted to just kind of share a little bit about what we've learned and some predictions for next year. And it's funny, I was looking at the Post-it board, and there's so many things that just ring true, whether it's from the agency and buyer side to the publisher side. So, there's a few things in here that might echo some of your own sentiments. So in terms of learning, the organizational impact at Turner when we started our programmatic business was completely underestimated. It was a new way of thinking about our inventory. It was a new way of understanding what our processes were, from forecasting to pricing to the buyers that we work with. It just was a completely sort of start over, reset button from an organizational perspective. Even small things like marketing materials and recognizing revenue, those were things that we hadn't truly prepared for, and there was absolutely a ramp-up part of this. The second thing I would say was we learned that the right salesperson is even more important. There was a big concern. Turner is a sales-led company. Most of our organization was concerned, well, is this really the end of the salesperson? And we found out very quickly, no, in fact, their job just got a little harder, which they may not have been happy about it, but a lot of them are actually quite excited now. There's no replacement for early demand generation. And we have always been a consultative sales company. And so what that looked like started to really change. So our salesperson now had to be able to talk about Anthony Bourdain and be able to talk about March Madness and the All-Star Game and Charles Barkley, and then be able to seamlessly transition to talking about audiences and data and private marketplaces and pricing. And it wasn't easy, and we definitely weren't successful, and we are learning as we go. And so I think we found that actually through a lot of the partners that we struck along the way, relying on them as part of our partnership, so not just a vendor, was incredibly important because they actually needed to inform us. So we went and we reached out to our partners in this space and said, we really need you to help us. Can you come within the organization? Can you talk to us? Can you get us educated? And it was nice to see sort of the true definition of partnership come to light in that way. The third thing was we discovered it is about audiences and environment. So staying with the theme of what this conference has been about is about content and creativity within the walls of programmatic. And so that had been the genesis for why Turner had long since said, you know what, that's not for us. We spend a lot of money producing the best content out there. We have the best news organization, video brands, and that would be just completely contrary to who we are if we started to sell audiences. But we quickly recognized that buyers were valuing both the audiences that we bring, the performance that comes along with having the right audiences and the right brands, and then having those environments work together. So we saw a lot of, I would say, positive feedback from offering really premium event content and aligning that with folks who were contextually relevant advertisers. So the World Cup and things like Under Armour and other sports apparel companies that maybe had been locked out of official segments from some of the folks who had more traditional coverage on the sports side, like the ESPNs and the Univision. You know, from a news perspective, there actually was an opportunity for a programmatic buyer to come in and have a sports messaging, right audience, right time, and have adjacency to something that is as impactful and captivating as the World Cup. So this one I actually saw echoed on some of the Post-its over there. We quickly also learned that the buy side is in flux. So what did that mean in terms of, you know, trying to build our private marketplace? So that's obviously a focus at Turner. We're a highly sold company. There's opportunities, of course, on the open exchange to buy our brands, but they are uneven at best. Sometimes the end of the month, maybe not. Sometimes different months. You know, for the rest of the year, we're very highly sold. So wanting to develop those relationships as budget shift from brands over to this area, I think this was more challenging than we thought. Understanding who's holding the budgets. Quite often when we were talking to programmatic buyers, they were saying, well, you know, your direct sales team actually has the relationship with, you know, X insurance company. I know that they do all these big programs. Can you guys invite us to that meeting? Because we're actually trying to get the budget together. So, you know, I think we realized that we needed to kind of work together to make the conversations come and join in. But this is definitely the piece that has evolved the most, whether it's marketers taking their own budgets, where they sit within an agency, where they sit amongst the planning teams. It's evolving every day. And I'd say that the biggest learning, and I could have put 50 on here, but I chose 5, was programmatic does have a really important place within our business, and we are no longer sort of shy about that. It is going to be incredibly important for us to recognize the value that it has brought over the last year, whether it's from learning about our audiences and understanding them in new ways, or opening ourselves up to a completely new, different buying set. We have had so many success stories in thinking about there's a ton of brands that had always said, a great example is news. I never want to be in news, it's not for me, it's all hard news. And we have, I mean, our biggest section is entertainment and lifestyle content. So they had said, you know, the entire news category is not for me. But they started to buy us on the open exchange and maybe test us a little bit there. And then they moved to the private exchange when they couldn't get enough inventory. And they were finding the right audiences, and it was starting to perform. And so we are seeing, you know, opportunities where we hadn't seen them before. It has also allowed us, you know, to really, I'd say, view the market in a different way. And so we're constantly now investing and reinvesting in ways to do this and do it better, whether it's from, you know, a data perspective, whether it's from a technology perspective, the right partnerships. So we recognize the importance, which is probably why I'm here today. So for predictions, video for us, whole new ball game. I mean, completely like start over. It's because the supply-demand economics are completely different. Where we might have quite a bit of unsold in display, video does look very different. There's opportunities within that, but it's certainly nothing for any one of our direct advertisers or biggest advertisers to bank on, that I'm going to try and pick up something in an unsold market. And so we quite often hear, well, are you going to allow video to be bought programmatically, or are you going to keep that out? We're absolutely not making a blanket decision of keeping things in and out. We are very understanding that our buyers want to buy in a new way. We want to work with them, but it also has to make sense for the business. Again, highly sold that we feel that for video, you know, the art of the deal, the dynamics of a deal will have to come back into play. And what I mean by that is what inventory, broadly speaking, what budgets, what flights, if we want to reserve that inventory. And so one of the other things that I know I've heard from folks is this idea of data symmetry. And that's much more important in the video space in terms of understanding who you want to buy, us figuring out the scarcity or our avails within that, earmarketing, taking that out of market so we can then deliver on it for the campaign, and being able to price accordingly. So we also understand that with video, I've had a number of conversations as people have waited for us to put our programmatic video strategy in place of, looking for rates around $6 or $7. And we know that that's fraud because that's what they've been buying up until now. And you're not going to find premium level video inventory at $6 and $7. At least certainly not in a private marketplace, and maybe you'll find it somewhere else. But it just invites that element, and that's a conversation we haven't had much on the display side. For us, we know there's going to be a private marketplace boom, and we're incredibly excited about that. We are focused on private marketplace sales, wanting to make sure that we're giving the advertisers exactly what they want, full transparency, premium placements, data opportunities. We know as budgets will shift, that's really where you can bank on getting placement within the Turner brands, and we want to be able to work with advertisers where they are moving those budgets. So we expect this, or we're hopeful that this will be the year of the private marketplace. And the other is we see programmatic and sponsorship coming together. And what I mean by that is we are quite often an event-driven, sponsorship-led organization. We have a number of amazing opportunities for brands to wholly own media, wholly own placement within something. And so, if we look at advertisers that have an amazing portfolio of brands, whether that be, let's say, Google as a marketer, and they are, a valuable partner to a Turner, if they have wholly owned media, and we recognize there might be opportunities for sponsorship execution within that. So being able to look within their portfolio of brands across their business units and message the right person, the right time within that construct of a programmatic sponsorship. I think that's exciting, I think that's meaningful, and it really pushes the boundaries of the definition. Now this I put in because I have to. Everybody says the year of mobile, so why not? But for us, we are looking forward to what has been done in mobile and the opportunities therein. For us, we know it's a completely under-leveraged asset. And the opportunities from a native perspective, from cross-device targeting, and better executions, better partners, it's going to be very meaningful to us as our audiences continue to migrate. And we have, in some instances on CNN and others, upwards of 30, near 40% of our users are on mobile devices. We want that to be a growing and meaningful part of our programmatic business. So the last prediction is the same as the last learning. Programmatic has an important growing place in our business. It is not going to change. We, as I said, are investing in this space, whether it's in terms of talent, technology, data, and having it be able to weave through all of our brands, all of our platforms, and really move to where we think the business is moving. And so we're incredibly excited to work with our advertisers that are really trying to solve for the next generation of programmatic, to be able to pull the idea of creativity and programmatic. And we think that's a really good place for us because this is where the buying is moving towards, and I think for us, the idea of the right audience, the right message in the right brand in the right context is very meaningful, and that's why there's a future for that at Turner. So I really do appreciate your time, and thank you very much, and have safe travels back.